Welcome in, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be listening. I appreciate you and I am grateful for you supporting me and, you know, indulging me to listen to my advice because I do put a lot into this. I put a lot of my heart into this. And so I really appreciate everyone that listens to this. So if you can give a like, a thumbs up, a comment, it really does help us content creators, podcasters to feel seen and to want to keep doing it because it is a lot of work. So I just want to throw that out there and see, I appreciate all of you, and I see the love. So thank you. In today's episode of Keeping It Real Estate, we are going to do a full checkup on your real estate pipeline. So this is going to be called Pipeline Wellness Check. Are you nurturing or neglecting your database? So, is your pipeline thriving, right? Is it on life support? Do you even know? Are you too scared to look? That is the case of a lot of agents, okay? So I'm going to walk you through how to evaluate it, organize it, and actually follow up with purpose and not just scattering, like reacting to whatever is coming in or just trying to achieve one thing inside your pipeline and then you don't really know what's going on. So I work with a lot of top producing teams and I see a lot of things that make me go and then some things that I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea, right? So I want to share that with all of you so that if whether you're a new agent or you're an experienced agent or a team leader or a broker owner or any of those things, you can get something out of this because there are many, many different ways to follow your pipeline and there's different ways to think about it. And so we're going to dive in and figure out, what exactly we can do to help our pipeline nurture and not be neglected. Be nurtured and not be neglected. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. So what does a healthy pipeline look like? So what a healthy pipeline looks like is not just going to be one category of leads, right? So I think most agents do this, but me personally, I separate leads into a hot category, which is buying or selling within 0 to 3 months. I have a warm category, which is buying or selling within 3 to 6 months. And then I have tepid, which is like, I don't know, but they talk to me at least. So we're going to find out when I actually get the chance to talk to them. And that's just, like I said, I don't know. But then I have cold, which is 6+ months. And so usually the people that are hot are ready to transact and have the ability to transact. Not always. Sometimes people are hot, they really want to transact, but they don't have the ability to transact. So the people that you put as hot, you need to do a little bit of research to find out, a little bit of pre-qualification, if you will, to find out where they actually are at. Because I want you guys to remember every name in your database, and I see this really often that agents will treat their database like just a number, like, oh, I have 55,000 agents in my database or 55,000 names in my database or leads or whatever, right? You have to remember that every single lead is a name and every name is a person, okay? Or company, depending on what you're actually doing. But still, person that you are trying to connect with that needs to know, like, and trust you in order to be able to move forward and transact with you as well. All right, so a healthy pipeline flows and doesn't stall. So those categories that I mentioned, hot, warm, cold, tepid, if you have that, if you will, those are going to be your indicators for where your business is at. So if all of your leads are in the hot stage, but you don't have anything in warm or cold, then all of your money is now business, okay? And you don't have anything for the future. And vice versa, if everything in your database is cold and you don't have anything that's hot, then you are looking at, 6+ months before those come to fruition and actually become closings. So If you only have hot leads, your future is in danger. And if you only have cold leads, your present is starving. That is the point that I'm trying to make. Okay. So you don't want it to stall at any point. You always want those different categories of leads that hot, warm, cold, tepid, if you will. You always want those to be fluctuating, going from one stage to another, and that sort of thing, so that And sometimes people, I mean, sometimes I say this respectfully, sometimes they're trash because they have an agent. I'm not saying the person is trash. I'm saying like sometimes there's no reason to keep a person in your database. Now, that is my perspective. I'm not going to sit there and chase somebody that, their sister is an agent or something like that. Like, I mean, I don't want to be that person that's like, oh, I'll keep following up with you for 5 years, even though we're an agent yourself or something like that. Right. So I know that eventually you can get that business, but it's not really my thing. I don't come from a place of like desperation when I make my follow-up calls or any of that. I'm coming from a place of value. And, if we're a good fit for each other, great. If we're not a good fit for each other, well, on to the next one. I know that the universe is going to bring me the right people and my vibe is going to attract my tribe kind of thing. Okay. So the 3 warning signs that are going to tell you if you are neglecting your pipeline is that number one, you don't know how many leads you actually have. So the first thing that I do when I have a discovery call with an agent that wants to know what it's like to hire the inside sales agency for ISA services, one of the first things I do is ask, how many leads do you have? How many of them have phone numbers? Where did they come from? These are things that I ask, and a lot of people do not know. Now, some people come prepared, and sometimes I give them the heads up, like, hey, I'm going to ask these questions, so go ahead and dig into your database. So you should know how many leads you have. And I know if you're going to be like, oh, okay, well, I'm always getting new ones, so I don't actually know. You should have a rough idea. You should have a rough idea. I know how many I have in my database right now. I have almost 3,000. And I know that because I pay if I go over 3,000. So I know that it's close to that, but it's not over that because you have to pay extra for my CRM. It's just a whole other thing. It has nothing to do with being a solo agent or an agent like that. It's just for my ISK business. Okay, so number 2 is that you're relying on memory, sticky notes, or random text messages to know where things are at. Okay, this is way too common, way more common than you would even think, because even for some of the like bigger teams, like they've gotten to where they are just working their asses off. And sometimes that means keeping, a notebook in your car rather than typing, something into your CRM to keep the notes updated in your CRM. Like they just find a way to keep all the information, or they just have text messages, or they have voice notes or something like that, right? So your CRM, which every agent should have a CRM and should use a CRM, and pretty much far as I know, most brokerages, at least my brokerage, gives you options for CRMs or I heard they give you, there's now going to be options, but they at least give you one, right? So you should be able to use it. You should figure out how to use it, and there should be training on it. So figure that out. And if you don't have a CRM, well, you can hit me up and you can join me, and you could get a free CRM from EXP if you want. Or you can always do your research and find one for yourself. Whatever CRM you use is going to be the best CRM though. So just make sure that if you go get one, figure out how to use it, which is what we're talking about right now. So number 3, the number 3 warning sign that you're neglecting your pipeline is that you're only following up when business is slow, AKA you're in a reactive mode. Okay. And reactive mode, I mean, that's the term that it's using here. I think there's 2 types of reactive mode. One was what I mentioned earlier, where you are so busy that you're so reactive that you're not actually following your own SOPs, standard operating procedures for your team or something like that. You're not actually going through the steps that you yourself expect of your team because you yourself are way too busy to do those things. And that's when you hire help, or you time block, and you make sure that you set aside their time so that you're not just reacting. And then there's reacting in a slow period, or when you are, when you're just that agent that sits back and goes, I'm paying for all these leads and I'm just waiting, for someone to text me back or email me back. that is a different type of reactive because then you're only following up with people when they are responding and you're missing out on a lot of business. I am not going to lie. There is a ton of business out there um, that people miss out on because they are just waiting for the person to say, hey, thanks. I, I got your list, or thanks. I'm looking for this type of home. Sometimes when those people do respond, they tend to not be like, I find there's more scammer people out there that are the responsive ones that are like, yeah, I'm looking for a single family. The hit me up on WhatsApp text messages that we get as agents that you can spot real quick. Now, I'm not saying all WhatsApp, people that say hit me up on WhatsApp are scammers, but you can pretty much spot them when they're like, I'm moving to the area and I'm looking for a single family home for my, I'm looking for $3 million home. And you're just like, yeah, sure you are. I still vet them though, just in case, right? So if you're not touching your pipeline weekly, you're being deals, period. Okay. I mean, some agents aren't touching it monthly even. Okay. So your pipeline really is the health of your business. It's the health and wellness of your business. It's telling you if your business is successful. It's telling you where your business is coming from. It's telling you where you should put your money, where you're getting a return on your investment. I mean, those things are invaluable. So y'all should be using it, right? Okay, so what I want you to do for a little homework, this is um this is something you guys can write down, or if you are capable, you could do it now. But we're gonna audit your pipeline, okay? So based on things that I already said. What you want to do is you want to pull up your CRM, or if you use a spreadsheet, fine, or a notebook, or wherever you have this information currently, okay? But it should be in your CRM. And I want you to go through these 3 questions, okay? Number 1, how many active leads do you actually have? And active meaning they have either opened your emails and responded, or requested information. Let's say they're a seller and they're opening maybe like market update emails, or maybe you send like HomeBot, right? Like you're letting them know, hey, this is what we think your home is worth, and you see they're interacting with that. Maybe they're saying, we made some updates, so I think it might be closer to this. That tends to happen too, because HomeBot does give you the opportunity, or give sellers the opportunity to say, hey, I don't think that's the right amount that you came up with for my home, or whatever the case may be, right? So those people are active. They're actively opening your stuff, and they probably know who you are, which is also good. So as well as buyers that are actively looking on your website or something along those lines, or if they're interacting with you, texting you, asking you questions about the market, asking you questions about what it takes to get into a home, those kind of things. You guys know what active means, right? So like figure out how many you actually have. Okay. So that's number 1. Figure out how many you actually have, write it down. Okay. Now, well, this kind of lends into the first one, but when is the last time for each of them you heard from that person? So if you're looking at the last 30 days that you would consider active leads, have you heard from them today? Did you hear from them 3 weeks ago? What was the interaction, right? Because you kind of want to know, like, and I wouldn't call active lead like if somebody texts back and says stop, or says I have an agent, I wouldn't consider that active, right? They are actively telling you no, but that's not what we're talking about here. Okay. We're talking about the people that are actually, engaging with your content, engaging with your website, seeing your face, getting to know, like, and trust you, which is really crucial in order for someone to transact with you. Okay. So stage, or number 3, you need to find out what stage they're in, which we went over at the beginning of this, right? So what stage are they in? What would you say, their timeline is, right? Are they hot? Are they looking to buy or sell within 0 to 3 months based on the interactions that you've had with them? Are they warm? Are they like, yeah, I'm still 3 to 6 months out from doing anything? Or are they cold and they need 6+ months? And anyone that I haven't reached, so the way that I format this for my own leads is anyone that I've talked to, I can kind of gauge based on what I told you earlier, where I have hot, warm, and cold, but I also have tepid, which is, like I said, somebody that's just like, yeah, I'm still looking, but um, I can't talk right now. Call me later or something like that. I don't really know anything much yet other than they're still looking, but are they still looking for now? I had one person request a tour who was looking to rent a home in 2026, in summer of 2026. And they were just wanting to do their homework, beforehand. And I was like, wow, that is an early, you know, overachiever in that regard. That house that they wanted to look at, there's no, I mean, not unless they sold it and then, but still wasn't a rental, which I thought was weird, that part. Anyways, okay. So number one, how many active leads do you have? Do you actually have? When is the last time you heard from each one of them? And what stage would you put them in? Hot, warm, or cold? Okay. So once you do that, figure that out. Anyone that I haven't heard from, I I mean, you can just pretty much, I don't personally, I don't give hot, warm, cold stage two, but I guess it would automatically fall into the unknown stage, right? Like, or cold until we have a conversation with them. So anybody that I've been like following up with for 6+ months and they're just not responsive to me, I can't really gauge where they're at other than they're ignoring me. But on that note, I had somebody I was calling since October 2nd of 2024 call me back the other day. And I was pretty shocked by it. As a matter of fact, I was like, whoa, this lady has never responded to a text, never answered her phone. And all of a sudden she called me back and I answered it. And she was like, yeah, I'm looking for houses. So I stayed on top of, stayed top of mind, kept, sending content and putting my client's face in front of her. And eventually, you know what? We were who she thought of and who she reached out to. I did happen to call her and she called me back that day, but I had another one like that recently. It wasn't quite as dramatic, but I had been following up with him for a few months and called me back. So it does work. Stay in front of them. Okay. Um, all right. So now we're going to go into systems that save you time, which are automations, drip campaigns, birthday texts are really impactful. Okay. So I see people do this for birthdays on Facebook, which is really cool, especially for agent attraction. I think it's really cool. But I noticed that people are just using the bare minimum in it. And so, like on your birthday, you'll get a bunch of the exact same messages because all they're doing is hitting the button on the Facebook. Like, these are the birthdays now, send them a happy birthday. The people that go above and beyond and send a video or something and say, like, personally say my name in it, not just a video of like generic video, like, hey, it's your birthday, and they don't say who I am. The people that go above and beyond and actually create a video specifically for me, I feel like that's, I'm going to remember those. I remember there's a guy I didn't even like very much that sends me one every year. Well, he did for a while. I don't think he does anymore, but we're still friends on Facebook. Friends. Okay, so let's see. So other things are going to be manual check-ins, which I guess I just kind of talked about, but can say, and I do this all the time with my follow-up. Hey, you had been looking at homes a few months ago. I just want to know, is the plan still to buy or sell this year? Right? I recently did a text that I sent out to any old lead, well, and semi-new leads, but and it was like, spring is in the air. Did you know that it's the best time to make a move? I use certain wording because if you use the word sell in a text message, sometimes the cell carriers will trigger it as spam and it won't go through, which you can see in follow-up boss and other things that, okay, it looks like it's sent in the front end, but then once you go back, it says unsent or rejected or something like that. So try to stay away from the word sell or sale and cash. Like sometimes I send text messages. I'd be like, hey, you requested a cash offer. I took the word cash out of that and I said, hey, it looks like you requested an offer for your home or whatever, right? So I find these texts to be effective, and it gives them an opportunity to tell me where they're at so that I can put them in one of those stages, right? If they're like, they come back to me and they say, yeah, I'm still looking. Great. Awesome. Are you working with an agent already? I wouldn't want to step on toes. And once they say, no, I'm not, then we can get into what's your buying criteria, what's your timeline, what's your budget, all those things. But sometimes they reply and say, actually, I already bought a home, and awesome. Congrats. You know, good luck with everything, right? Congrats. That's kind of what I say to that. So, just simple messages, and ChatGPT can give you some ideas. If you have, if you want to type in the scenario, be like, this person was looking at homes. You can type it all out and say, what should I send them? And you can adjust it. Or usually it gives me a good enough starting point, which I don't actually use it for that very often. I mostly use ChatGPT to kind of outline what I'm going to talk about on these things, and then just a lot of personal stuff. But as far as like, if you really did want, if you don't know what to say on a text message or how to respond to an email, you can drop it in there and it's pretty cool. So it'll give you some ideas. It could give you different options on what to say. But it does work. And especially if you're coming from a place of like, hey, I just want to see where you're at. I'm not trying to bug you. At some point I give them the opportunity to tell me, hey, I no, like stop, leave me alone. I'll be like, hey, if you just reply stop, I'll quit bugging you. I have some people I've been calling for over a year, and I'm like, you've never answered the phone or never responded to a text. I'm still gonna, call and text you once a month unless you just tell me to stop because you already bought or you don't know who I am. Like some people will answer after a year and they'll be like, you have the wrong number. I'm like, I asked you, is this the right person multiple times, right? But anyways, they don't always listen to the voicemails and they don't always read the text, but I give them the option and sometimes they take it. Okay, so another thing is you want to do like a weekly pipeline review. And with the CRMs that are out there, this shouldn't be too hard. If you just commit 15 minutes a week to this part of your business, and during the week, when you get a new lead, when you interact with, a prospect, if you are updating the statuses, the stages, then you're going to be able to pull reports at the end of the week. And you're going to be able to see, okay, I interacted with, 10 buyers. They all came from, let's just say, they all came from Facebook. They've been in my database for 8 months, which means they might be ready to transact, or, it could be they all came from my website and they're all still looking at homes or whatever the case may be, right? Like it gives you an idea though. If you have all your business coming from one source, then you're in trouble. You need to have multiple lead generation tools, and lead sources for your business so that if one thing, like, for example, let's just say you were an agent that all you did was FSBOs and expires. FSBOs and expires. Well, there happened to be a law recently that almost went into effect at the beginning of the year that would have completely disrupted anyone that was doing expires and FSBOs, because there was a one-to-one consent that you had to have written consent to contact anyone through a dialer. Otherwise, you have to do it all from your cell phone. And that would mess up a lot of businesses, I know. So if you're only if you're only working one lead source, then something like that could come along and totally disrupt your business. Or maybe you're only using Facebook ads, but all of a sudden they change the rules and now you're not allowed to market it the same way and it totally messes up your business, right? So make sure you don't have all your eggs in one basket. That's what I'm trying to say. There you go. Okay. Some other things you can do that I really like are templates and touch point examples. So, for me personally, I've shared this many, many times. I contact them ASAP. This is for, well, it depends on the type of lead, which is another whole show that I've done and you guys know. But for, let's just say an internet lead that requested a list of homes for sale. Well, no, it's saying I'm giving a thumbs up. That's just like a 1. Okay. Number 1. If you have now I lost my train of thought because that thumb thing popped up. Let me think. Oh, touch points. Right. So if I get an internet lead, I call them as soon as possible and I text them and I say, hey, I noticed you requested this list of homes. Sometimes that list goes to spam. Did you get it okay in your email? And they don't usually respond. So 2 days later, I call and text them again and I say, hey, is this person? Like, is this Sarah? Right. And I'll ask them. And I will say, this is Sara, right? So that they know who I am. And then I call them again a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, and then once a month until they pick up the phone. So that is my touch point examples. Okay. As far as templates, that's, you guys have templates for all kinds of things like your listing presentation and your marketing and your CMAs and all that kind of stuff. So that's helpful to have that all ready to go. Okay, so just to recap, a healthy pipeline is going to have people that are engaged and active, but it's also going to be organized. And you should ask yourself, when are you going to schedule your next pipeline review? Make sure it is recurring. And then you should make sure that you have the right tools to do what you're doing as far as any kind of texts that you want to send out or videos or templates that we just talked about or drip campaigns or any of that stuff. So the way that you use your text templates, hey, just want to check in. Are you still thinking of buying Selly this year? If not, please let me know. Or if you have a buyer that's active, hey, I've seen a few homes that reminded me of what you were looking for. Are you still on the hunt for something, right? Those are good ways to follow up. And I think there was one other thing. So do the little exercise, write out how many buyers, how many sellers, and anything else. Like if you do agent attraction or if you work with rentals, you could write those out too. Go through your database, figure out how many leads you have. If you want to do a little extra credit, then also put what lead source they came from or try to categorize that. And then figure out if they're hot, warm, cold, or unknown, right? And then make sure that you set up time to connect with the people that are active and don't be reactive. And that is all I have for you guys today. So hopefully it was helpful. And hit me up on socials if you need anything, or listen on KGCI, or find me on YouTube. All right. Thanks, you guys. See you next time.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.